Cuba, the search for survivors continues at the Saratoga Hotel in Havana, which was destroyed by an accidental explosion that left 27 dead so far. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador, arrived in Cuba on Saturday, concluding his tour to Central America and the Caribbean. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad met with top Iranian leaders, the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and President Ebrahim Raisi, in a surprise visit in Tehran on Sunday and then left for Damascus the same day. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Dio Martin, from the Telstar studios in Havana. We begin with the news. In Cuba, the search for survivors continues at the Saratoga Hotel in Havana, which was destroyed by an accidental explosion that left 27 dead so far. After more than 43 hours of uninterrupted work by rescuers, Alexis Costa, mayor of Havana Vieja, stated that the volume of the destruction was complicating the search efforts. Acosta added that the rescuers were able to open up their way to the administrative offices and the warehouse of the collapsed structure. The authorities stated that they have the human and material resources to continue the rescue operations, but must proceed with caution due to flooded or very unstable areas. Rescuers estimate that there are people trapped in the basement of the hotel, but added that they must assess the safest way to remove the debris in order to enter the site. Luis Antonio Torres, first secretary of the Cuban Communist Party in Havana, made a statement on the events at the Saratoga Hotel in Havana and stressed that the search and rescue efforts are progressing at the site.
Well, as you know, all night long we continue the work of rescue and search for human lives or rescue of corpses that are in the affected area. As I have explained since the first intervention I made yesterday morning, this is a slow task, because it is a search for corpses or people who have survived. There, besides, we are in the presence of a structure that, although in the not collapsing all its dimension, there are important parts that collapsed. Therefore, the work of the specialists, the technicians of the fire department, and of other institutions that are participating is slow because of the level of responsibility that they have in the search and the rescue efforts.
Likewise, the first secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba in Havana, Luis Antonio Torres Iribar, indicated that specialists from different governmental entities are evaluating the situation of the building.
At this moment, with the presence of Commander Ramiro, the Minister of Construction, the OSD partner, the project, the ENIA, everyone, they are assessing the situation of the building. Remember that it has not yet been possible for these specialists to enter and the places. The firemen have entered. They are searching for lives of corpses, but now the process begins. Those that are being released. That the specialists then begin to enter to analyze the structure and evaluate the situation to know if the building can be preserved or not.
The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador, arrived in Cuba on Saturday, concluding his tour to Central America and the Caribbean. Lopez Obrador arrived at Havana's José Martí International Airport, where he was received by Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez. The Mexican head of state is expected to meet with his Cuban counterpart Miguel Díaz Canell to sign agreements on economic, political, and migration issues. During his tour of Central America and the Caribbean, Lopez Obrador demanded that no country of the continent to be excluded of the Americas Summit, which will be held next month of June. In Haiti, hundreds of people in the north of Port-au-Prince took to the streets on Friday to celebrate the return to normal after 2 weeks of gang warfare. Residents of the northern neighborhood of Croix de Mission also claimed that the national government failed to act in light of the clashes that kept businesses and schools closed for more than 10 days. In addition, the conflict also resulted in burnt houses and the permanent anxiety of the local population. All this is a result of violence between Haiti's main gangs, Chen Michan and the rival 400 Mawozo. However, the territorial war between two rival gangs continues in other districts of the capital.
I asked for peace. I also asked people not to turn away from the area. As in Martisan, all activities are stopped. We want to return to activities again. I asked everyone who goes to public parks in other areas like arcades, cabaret, that they come back to their homes.
The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador, arrived in Belize as part of his tour through Central America and the Caribbean. This was his penultimate stop before concluding his trip in Cuba. During his visit to the Central American nation, Lopez Obrador and Belize Prime Minister John Briceño witnessed a bilateral cooperation agreement to implement the Sowing Life program in Belize, which pays a daily wage to farmers as a development option. In the bilateral cooperation agreement, both diplomats expressed their desire to extend the Mayan train to Belize. Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard and his Belizean counterpart Imon Cortenay signed the agreement to expand the project.
Likewise, Belize will benefit from the Mayan train. We have just reached an agreement with the Prime Minister for Mexico to remove its tariffs on products that Belize can export to our country. That is, it will be able to export to Mexico from Belize agricultural products, beef and other staple foods, without paying taxes. Tariff will be suspended.
The Mexican head of state also spoke about the need of countries of the continent not to exclude anyone in the next summit of the Americas.
That is why I have been insisting on the need for no government in the hemisphere and no country in the Americas to be excluded from the next summit to be held in Los Angeles in the United States. That no one exclude anyone. It should be a meeting that allows precisely to settle and resolve disagreements without impositions or unilateral measures, without hegemonies or arrogance. In that spirit, my government is assisting with respect for the sovereignty of neighboring countries in the Caribbean and Central America, in the implementation of social programs such as those we have been implementing in Mexico for more than 3 years.
We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Hello and welcome back to From the South. On Saturday, the former president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, officially announced his presidential candidacy for the general elections in October. The activity took place in the city of São Paulo. At the event headed by former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, it was launched the Let's Go Together for Brazil movement, which brings together the 7 political parties that support Lula. It also includes multiple unions and social organizations such as the No Land movement. The Workers' Party pointed out that the movement Let's Go Together for Brazil seeks to return the nation to the path of social justice, economic growth, sovereignty, and democracy. During the ceremony, former President da Silva stressed that defending the country's sovereignty means strengthening bilateral relations with neighboring countries and international organizations.
To defend our sovereignty is to defend South America, Latin America, and Caribbean integration, and to truly strengthen Mercosur, UNASUR, CELAC, and the BRICS. It is to establish better alliance for the country without leaving anyone behind and to fight for a new global rule. Brazil is too big a country to be left out as a social outcast in the war through submission, denial, and aggressions against our biggest commercial allies, causing great economic losses for the country. Therefore, friends, defending our sovereignty means defending Petrobras, which is being dismantled day after day.
In his speech to confirm his presidential candidacy, former President Lula da Silva pointed out that the current government does not care about the stability of the people, but seeks to paralyze important projects in the country.
Defending sovereignty means investing in infrastructure capable of transforming the country and the lives of the people, increasing the productivity of the economy and creating the basis for future progress. The current government does not care about the infrastructure of this country. They paralyzed important projects that were under development and are trying to appropriate others that were practically completed, as is the case of the transposition of Francisco River, a war dreamed since the times of the empire, which we made a reality, so that 12 million Brazilians finally had water in their homes and in their water pipes.
Lula da Silva reiterated that an important part of Brazil's sovereignty is the protection of indigenous lands that have been affected by the negligence of Jair Bolsonaro's government.
We also have much to learn from the indigenous peoples. Ancestral guardians of the environment. Defending our sovereignty is to guarantee the possession of the lands by the indigenous peoples, who were here millions of years before the arrival of the Portuguese and who were able to take care of these lands much better than anyone else, and who now see their territories being illegally invaded by garimpeiros, moderators, and the result of this crime. This is an ongoing crime that takes place with the complicity of the current government and goes beyond the destruction of rainforests and rivers, but jeopardizes the survival of the indigenous people.
A group of demonstrators marched on Friday from Italia Square to the hospital known as Former Central Center in support of journalist Francisca Sandoval, who was shot last weekend. The protest ended with police repression outside the healthcare center. Previously, a rally was organized by Señal 3 La Victoria in Chile, the community channel where it used to work at the journalist Francisca Sandoval, who was seriously injured while covering the Labor Day March in Central Station. As reported by Carabineros at 1900 hours on Friday, the hundreds of people gathered outside the former Central Hospital were setting up barricades, and about 2000 hours a procedure was initiated because the demonstrators allegedly had started to vandalize a gas station and a drugstore near the hospital. In response to this situation, the police began to repress the demonstrators using the water launcher car in the sector.
It is important to be here, to continue to highlight this struggle and everything that happened on Sunday, which was regrettable. On Sunday, we really suffered. I would say that it was practically a trap. They were waiting for us, to attack us. Drug dealers were ready. Before we arrived with the whole demonstration, the repression and the attack had already begun.
Francisca is a comrade, she is a friend, and the situation she's going through hurts me a lot. But Francisca represents the struggle of all us here, and the best way we can contribute to the battle Francisca is going through in the hospital is to keep up the fight, to keep going on the street, because they wanted to impose fear on us with what happened on Sunday, but we are telling them that we are not afraid of them.
Sinn Féin, which seeks unification with the Republic of Ireland, hailed a new era Saturday for Northern Ireland as it captured the largest number of seats in the Northern Ireland Assembly for the first time. With almost all votes counted from Thursday's local United Kingdom election, the party secured 27 of the Assembly's 90 seats. The Democratic Unionist Party, which has dominated Northern Ireland's legislature for 2 decades, held 24 seats. Saturday's results bring Sinn Féin's ultimate goal of a united Ireland a step closer, although the party kept unification out of the spotlight this year during a campaign dominated by the skyrocketing cost of living. Under a mandatory power-sharing system created by the 1998 peace agreement that ended decades of Catholic-Protestant conflict, the jobs of First Minister and Deputy First Minister are split between the biggest unionist party and the largest nationalist. Both posts must be filled for a government to function. The victory means Sinn Féin is entitled to the post of First Minister in Belfast for the first time since Northern Ireland was founded as a Protestant majority state in 1921.
Today ushers in a new era, which I believe presents us all with an opportunity to reimagine relationships in this society on the basis of fairness, on the basis of equality, and on the basis of social justice. Irrespective of religious, political or social backgrounds, my commitment is to make politics work.
I am delighted with the result for Sinn Féin. I mean, it's clear that our vote has surged. We have had a very positive and a very successful campaign, and we look forward now to getting back to work. Michelle will lead our team on Monday up to Stormont.
We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Bashar al-Assad met with top Iranian leaders, the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and President Ebrahim Raisi in a surprise visit in Tehran on Sunday, then left for Damascus the same day. The Supreme Leader's website confirmed the meeting. Its readout of the rare sit-down quoted Khamenei as telling Assad that his victory in an international war has increased the credibility of Syria and that Iran wishes to boost bilateral ties. This is the Syrian president's second trip to Tehran since the beginning of Syria's war in 2011. He had previously met the Iranian Supreme Leader, his biggest regional ally, in February 2019. At the time, Qasem Soleimani, the commander-in-chief of the Quds Force, the foreign operations arm of the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, had accompanied Assad on his visit. Soleimani was assassinated by a United States drone attack in Iraq in January 2020 under former President Donald Trump. The Arab League on Saturday condemned Israel's approval of the construction of 4,000 new housing units in Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank and the demolition of 12 villages south of Hebron. In a press release, the organization stated that the occupation authorities' announcement of new construction plans and authorizing the destruction of villages, displacement of thousands of people from their homes, and confiscation of thousands of dunams of land between the cities of Jerusalem and Jericho were equivalent to war crimes and crimes against humanity under the international law. It cautioned that the Israeli schemes, which are part of escalating Israeli attacks on the Palestinian people and are considered as war crimes, will have adverse repercussions on international security and stability. Syria is ready to provide assistance to the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. Syrian ambassador to Russia, Riyad Haddad, said during a working trip to the city of Yekaterinburg on Saturday. The ambassador expressed his government support to both republics and stressed that for over 8 years its people have been facing bombings, regular damages, and an unfair blockade by Western-backed neo-Nazis. Haddad reaffirmed that is the reason why Syria is working to provide comprehensive and humanitarian assistance to the Donbas republics. According to the envoy, the Syrian people and government are ready to help the countries that have been subject to Western aggression. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers on Saturday ordered all Afghan women to wear head-to-toe clothing in public, a sharp hardline pivot that confirmed the worst fears of rights activists and was bound to further complicate Taliban dealings with an already distrustful international community. The decree, which calls for women to only show their eyes and recommends they wear the head-to-toe burqa, evoked similar restrictions on women during the Taliban's previous rule between 1996 and 2001. Girls have been banned from school beyond grade 6 in most of the country since the Taliban's return. Universities opened earlier this year in much of the country, but since the taking of power of the Taliban, edicts have been erratic. While a handful of provinces continue to provide education to all, most provinces closed educational institutions for girls and women's right activist Narges Nizar said life is getting tougher for Afghan women and many are losing hope as the Taliban continue their harsh implementation of Islamic Sharia. The government of Ethiopia announced that it will export 100 megawatts of electricity to South Sudan every month for the next 3 years. Ethiopian Electric Power Company authorities informed that a South Sudanese delegation headed by the Minister of Energy and Dams, Peter Marcello, traveled to Sudan to finalize a memorandum of understanding about this transaction agreed between both countries. In the first instance, 100 megawatts of electricity will be sent. Then the export will be gradually increased to 400 megawatts. The measure seeks to help the neighboring country to meet its growing demands and, in addition, to obtain foreign currency that will help develop important projects quickly. Protesters rallied in front of the Presidential Secretariat of Sri Lanka in Colombo on Saturday to voice their concern about the state of emergency and the use of force by police on peaceful protesters. The country is also going through its worst economic crisis in recent memory, triggering protests across the Indian Ocean island nation with people demanding the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his powerful ruling family. The head of state issued a decree declaring a public emergency on Friday. The declaration of emergency came on the same day that shops, offices, banks, and schools closed across the country, heeding calls for a shutdown in protest against the president and his family. Trade unions have warned of continued strikes from May 11th if they do not resign by then. We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at Tell Us Our English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Tell Us Our English, I am Dio Martin. Thank you for watching.